Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity. We help people who are facing the end of their lives or dealing with a bereavement to write and record an original song. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can visit our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters. Each episode I have a different songwriter on. I ask them to share with us one of their songs. I asked them for a songwriting tip, and I also asked them for a song that's meaningful to them in some way related to bereavement. This episode features Ruth Lyon, and it's a fascinating conversation. We talk about activism, we talk about lots of different aspects of Ruth's songwriting, and yeah, it's a very really fun but really fascinating conversation where we talk about lots of things that I don't know have come before on the podcast, so you're really going to enjoy it. If you do, please like, share and subscribe to the show. We've got lots more great guests coming up that you're not going to want to miss. But yeah, without further ado, here is Ruth Lyon on the Swan Song Project Podcast. Enjoy. Okay, today I'm here with Ruth Lyon. Thanks for joining me, Ruth.
Hiya.
Thanks very much. Looking forward to chatting to you. This is the Swan Song Project Podcast. For anybody new to the show, each episode I have a different songwriter on. We do the show in three sections. First, we're going to have one of Ruth's songs. We're going to talk about how she wrote it. In section 2, I'll ask Ruth for a songwriting tip. And then in section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Ruth in some way relating to bereavement. So over to you now, Ruth. Which song of yours have you chosen to talk to us about today?
So the first song that I'm going to talk about is called Flood, and it's off my latest EP called Direct Debit to Vogue. And yeah, it's all about my experiences as a disabled woman, and it's a really important song for me, actually. It's the first time that I ever sort of talked about being disabled in this kind of way as blatant as this.
Brilliant,
So,
yeah. Cool, yes. Well, I'll listen to that now then. So this is Flood by Ruth Lyon.
Call me anything you want, I don't care. What is a name but Russia? All I am is a bang of blood, a bag of bones, an electric flood. It's actually quite important, all this stuff that I've been banging on about for years. You've been politely lending an ear to all my rage and fears and tears, but now it's a hot topic. Enraged by the injustice of it all, congratulate ourselves over gin and tonic about how far we've come. And I've been hitting home, I've been hitting home. It's written on my stone. Call me anything you want, I don't care. What is the name but a Russian air? All I am is a bang of blood, a bag of bones, an electric flood, a bag of bones, an electric flood. And I don't wanna be your inspiration porn that makes you feel warm like a nice cup of tea. In fact, I'd rather you found a kink that didn't involve me. Please don't cry when you see me live my best life. Surprise them away, we're all just skin and bone, recycled carbon in time. And I've been hitting home, I've been hitting home. It's written on my stone. Call me anything you want, I don't care. What is a name but a Russian air? All I Call me anything you want, I don't care. What is a name but a Russian ad? All I am is a bag of blood, a bag of bones, an electric flood, a bag of bones, an electric flood.
Okay, brilliant. So that was Flood. Yes, it's a great song, Ruth. It's very powerful, but it's also very fun. It feels like a very it's one of those songs where you can just hear it and you think, oh, it's just, a nice tune and really kind of great song. And then, you can kind of delve deeper into it the more you listen to it. But yeah, what can you tell us a bit about writing it?
That was exactly my intention. So I'm glad you picked up on that. Yeah, I really like to explore ideas of kind of juxtaposing quite difficult or challenging content with quite uplifting music, because I think the absurdity of life, if we can choose to sort of celebrate that and appreciate that in all its craziness, I think that kind of gets us through life, especially sort of being chronically ill. I speak to a lot of my chronically ill friends and they kind of feel the same. Life is so absurd and your dignity is often taken away through like operations, being in hospital. You get sort of your autonomy taken away from you quite a lot. So I think you have to kind of have this spirit of just sort of like, well, life is life. Stuff happens and we kind of have to just power through and kind of see that in a beautiful way if we can. And it's sometimes hard, but I think there's that makes us more resilient. So that's the kind of the idea behind kind of these challenging lyrics and sometimes quite dark lyrics that come through my music in dark tones, but often are kind of like little bop or a little bit of sass or something that kind of gives it life, because life isn't always just sad. You can be happy and sad and excited and frustrated all at the same time. And I think I want my music to kind of reflect that. I'm a very emotional, up and down, quite intense person. So I think my music really reflects that. So yeah, I started trying to write a song, and then I realized that actually trying to write a song isn't the way. So I often try to kind of document my life as I go through it in different ways. And I started thinking about my frustrations and ableism and how I go through life and these kind of niggles that stay with me. And I can get quite down about it sometimes, but I thought, well, how would it feel to put some of these ideas into a song, these kind of conversations, snapshots of conversations that I've been recording and writing down or recording into my phone. And I think there's obvious ableism, which is to do with, harassment and being shut out and prejudice and all these things that are very blatant. There's also this kind of insidious ableism that comes with a kind of happy face, but it's actually worse because you can't retaliate. And so that's what this song's kind of about. It's about people kind of coming up to me and crying on me and like, oh, you're so brave, this kind of thing. Or like going up to my husband and going, oh, you're doing ever such a good job. I don't know how you cope, things like this. And you kind of like, I just feel angry, when it's kind of day after day, these things. So, or people say to me, I'm inspirational. And it's like, yeah, okay. If somebody's inspiring, what are you inspired by? Is it because I'm a musician? Is it because I'm a painter? Is it because you like my dress? No, it's just because I exist, and that's just deeply frustrating because you can't really attack someone for saying that they're inspired by you. But so that's kind of what this song's about. So I started writing these kind of snapshots down. And then one of the lyrics is, I don't want to be your inspiration pawn. That makes you feel warm like a nice cup of tea. And I think it's like trying to get that kind of like northern into it, where I'm trying to make it funny. It's serious, but it's also trying to be funny at the same time, you know. And that's just kind of life. I think we don't get through, no one gets through life alive. So we might as well make a joke out of situations, difficult situations, if we can. And then the music, like you say, it is kind of uplifting, and I want it to be a kind of defiant celebration of disability and disability culture. And that's where the trumpets come in at the end, and I love it when that trumpet comes in and the trumpet lines come in, because it does feel like a kind of rousing celebration, fanfare, like, yes, we will not be defeated, you know. And I had so much fun recording it. It's the only one off that EP that I had mostly live band. So it's mostly a live band, and then artists kind of came and recorded on top of it. So I had a trumpet player, and I did the singing on top, and then a wonderful artist from Bristol called Lady Nade, she came in and did some backing vocals on it. And yeah, it was just a fantastic experience to be able to write it. And then once I'd written it, and then once I'd recorded it and we put it on the EP, I suddenly thought, oh, is anyone actually going to get this? Have I gone too far? Or, you know, I started to feel uncomfortable about releasing it. And then I think it was the day that I was releasing the EP that I was also releasing this song. And I suddenly just got the fear, and I thought, if people don't like this or they criticize this, you know, it's really going to hurt me because it's so personal. But it just went the complete opposite way. Like, Spotify picked it up, and I got on some really good playlists, which meant that I reached a lot more people, and that just felt fantastic. And the feedback from that, just people that don't know me, don't know anything about me, was suddenly kind of writing to me and being like, oh, this is what I feel about that song. And then you might not have the same lived experiences as me, but they were coming to me and saying, oh, that song makes me feel powerful because of da da da, and here's a story about me. And I just love that part of being a musician, where you get these connections with people across the world, just through being authentic and writing your own story. And it's a very humbling experience.
Yeah, it's just the magic of music, isn't it? Of how
Yeah.
it can connect with people. Were those letters from people with quite a range of experiences and situations? One of the things that I thought about is that, like, so obviously I knew what you were writing about, but there's some lyrics which, you know, you kind of, it's specific enough, but it's not like too specific that other people can't apply their own situation to it. You know, someone who might not have a disability but have another situation which makes them feel similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of the verses where I can't think which ones really stood out to me now, but that I imagine lots of people would feel the same way, even if they have a very different situation than you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's really important. It's really good to write about personal experiences and write about specifics that mean something to you. But I also always try and make music as accessible as possible, so somebody could hear something and it could make them feel a completely different way, and kind of conjure up a different memory or a different feeling that they'd had. And, you know, I think Call Me Anything You Want, I don't care what is a name but a breath of air. I think it's about, like, you know, and a lot of people have been bullied, and a lot of people have felt like worthless or powerless or whatever, and that could have been for a range of different reasons. And that feeling, I think, is something that most of us have felt, whether we appreciate it or not. I think most of us have felt that somebody's like attacked us or called us a name or something. And I think, yeah, it's a kind of celebration of that. I'd be like, yeah, we are all freaks deep down. We've all been bullied, even if we don't admit it. We all have felt small, and that's something that unites us. And if we can kind of share that and kind of celebrate that and be united with that feeling, I think that's what that song's about. And it was just really nice that people got that, and the power of it really, you know, got into people, and it just felt really special.
Yeah, and the lyric, I make you uneasy and I'm not sorry. That's a very powerful line that I imagine lots of people would really get a lot out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were talking about it as well, it made me think, so see, that's one time we work with a lot of people who are terminally ill and bereaved, and a lot of similarities from what you were saying about that, where people that kind of people talking to them with pity in a way, and like talking to them just as if they're someone who's ill and isn't a person beyond that, doesn't have, it's just like, oh, you're so, all that kind of same language of so yeah, and so it really resonated me with some of the experiences of people that I've worked with through Swan Song. Yeah, they connect with some of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think people can be really patronizing, and I think people can see illness. I think it terrifies people. I think being ill, you kind of feel this pressure to always be upbeat and smiley and happy. And I think that's a huge amount of pressure, because I think that society doesn't really like to look at disability and illness because it reminds us how fragile we are. And I get it, but it's not nice when you're the trigger for somebody else. Like a young, you see a young person in a wheelchair and you're like, oh God, I hope I don't turn out like that. Or hope my daughter doesn't turn out like that. And it's like, oh man, like, I'm really thriving. I'm really happy. I have a really great life. Like, obviously being disabled is hard sometimes, but like, I'm not sitting around crying about it. So why should anybody else, especially someone that doesn't even know me, feeling sorry for me? It's like, dude, I'm fine. I've got this. I don't need your pity.
Yeah. Is there anything, like, this might be quite a big question for a songwriting podcast, but like, what do you think, or do you have any thoughts on what is the kind of answer for this? Because and I feel like a lot of time people, it's like you say, people are scared and don't know what to say, and like people don't want to say anything what they think might upset someone. So I feel like a lot of time people, it's like, have good intentions, but it's badly it manifests in a bad way. So do you have any thoughts of like what's the solution, like, or how best people should deal with it if they feel like they're on the receiving end of it?
Yeah, I mean, the simple sort of everyday solution is that if you're interacting with somebody that's ill or disabled, I think the best solution is to not feel awkward, or just kind of get a grip of your own awkwardness. Because the worst thing is when people don't talk to you, or don't look at you, or don't make eye contact because they feel awkward and they don't know what to do. So they just avoid a situation or avoid any contact with you. And I think that's just, it dehumanizes you, and it's horrible. Like, I've been on, traveling around, and people are just kind of like, oh, I feel so awkward, I don't know where to stand, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to run away to the other end of the train, instead of just going, oh, do you need a hand, or do you need me to move? It's always better to just ask a question like, do you need help with that door? Do you need me to move anything? Are you all right? And as long as you listen when someone goes, oh, thanks, I'm fine, it's always better to ask that question and interact, and then the next time you might learn something. And a lot of my friends say that, before they met me and before we became friends, they felt like that as well. So it's not bad people. I'm not saying if people are bad when they feel awkward. Like, I think it's, if you're not used to interacting with somebody that has a disability or is chronically ill, I think that it can be difficult, and you don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and you don't want to be patronizing, but it's always better to just put your foot in it a little bit and have a bit of an awkward experience and learn something from it, rather than just shying away from anybody that's different. And then the longer term solution that I always campaign for is better representation, because there's a massive lack of disabled talent throughout all of the arts and just in general. And I think if there was better representation in music, in film, in TV, and not just playing the part of the disabled character, it's usually someone's best friend and they're like kooky and funny, actual proper representation of disabled people and chronically ill people throughout the arts, and throughout everyday life as well. But I think the arts is essential for that, because it's where tastemakers are born, and it's where people sort of experience life, and where we kind of reflect society, and society is also reflected back through the arts, and it informs everything, the arts, and it's an expression of how we feel as a society and different groups. And if disabled people are kind of left out of that, nothing's going to change, because if you're a kid and you've got all these heroes in your life, like, or whether it's Taylor Swift or whoever, if none of those people, actors, musicians, sports people, if none of those people have a disability, it's kind of teaching kids that disabled people are less than. Whereas I think it would be great if we had just disabled people who were seen as cool or inspiring and the best of their field. And that's what I think, that through time, disability will become like the other underrepresented groups that do have a bit more of a platform in these worlds, like the Brit Awards or the Mercury Awards. Like, how many times have you seen an artist in a wheelchair or an artist with a white stick and, you know, coming and winning an award? Like, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. And so I think it's about, celebrating disability culture within all art forms, and hopefully disabled people just become more assimilated into society and kind of looked up to. And that's where I think that people start to feel less awkward, because they'll be like, oh, I've seen that bloke on TV and that's how he interacts with people, so oh right, it's fine, and they're cool, and like they're just normal people. Just need some extra support.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, and it brings us back nicely to your song of that, you know, I feel like sometimes with activism, people are kind of like just try and avoid it for the same reasons that we're talking about. If like, if it's a subject that they don't know about, or they feel it doesn't affect them day to day, they can not want to engage with it. But art is such a good way of bridging that gap, isn't it? Of like, so going back to Flood, people might hear that and be like, oh, that's a great song, and then like just engage with it on that level, and then over time it makes them think about the issues it's talking about, rather than, and which I think, you know, some like activist-based songs can be a bit like hitting over the head, aren't they? Where it's like, it's just here's the message, here's what I want you to believe, rather than, you know, the music comes secondary to the message, which then I feel can also put people off and make people feel standoffish with it. Whereas when they're married perfectly in that way, where the art, so the music in the sense, hooks people in, and it's by itself, it makes the message easier to digest in a way.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what I try and do. You know, I want to be a musician in my own right, first and foremost. I am also an activist. I am also a disabled person, and I can't escape that. But the music, I really want to be successful on my own merit for being a musician. And I want people to like the music, and I don't want them to have any sort of experience with disability. I want everybody to be included in this music and feel something from the music. I don't want it to be exclusionary. I don't want it to be for disabled people. I want it to inspire anybody or touch anybody, or kind of evoke lots of different emotions and different memories in different people. And I think that's really, really important. And I think sometimes you're right, there are some activist musicians where it does feel like you've got to be just being slapped around the face, like, whoa, okay, that was intense. Not sure I'm going to listen to that album again. Bloody hell.
Yeah, definitely. You said this was the first song where you'd written as explicitly about this. Was that a conscious, and I guess writing this, how was that different to your previous stuff, and how conscious was that decision at the time? So had you written about some of these issues in different ways in the past?
Yeah, I have written about experiences, but just in a really subtle way. Like, there's one song that I had on a previous EP called Little Blue, and that's about my relationship with one of my medications. And it's kind of like me talking to these little blue pills. But it's not specifically about that. Like, you wouldn't get that from listening to it. You only know when you see me taking my pills, and sometimes I talk to myself and I'm like, right, come on, you know, we're gonna be fine, you know, this isn't gonna knock me out, I'm gonna be able to do the show later, like, come on, positive manifestation. And so I do like talk to my pills and like kind of see them as people, because it kind of like gets me through everything. So unless you'd seen that, you wouldn't know. But once I've explained it to my pals, they're like, oh, that makes so much sense. But it sounds like I'm talking to like an ex-lover or something, or a, you know, something like that. But it's not about that at all. It's about drugs. It's about the drugs that I take. So I have talked about this and these emotions that I have, because having to take drugs, having to use mobility aids, having to depend on people, having to use carers and all these kind of things, it can really get to you. It can get on top of you, and you can feel quite trapped sometimes, like without these drugs, without this help, without these doctors, I don't know where I'd be, and it can get you quite down. And so that's kind of what I've written about before, about the struggle with that. But it could be about anything, but I know what it's about. So it was really therapeutic for me, but it's nice that other people kind of don't really know what it's about, or they kind of put to me that it could be about, other things. And there's another song called Wool, which is about my relationship with my own mum, and about sort of, being ill and how difficult that is to be. It must be really difficult to be a mother and have a kid that ends up so poorly, and kind of my relationship with my mum, and how stressful that can be at times, because I feel bad about, she feels bad that I'm ill, and she often says, I wish I'd been ill instead of you. And that kind of like that instinct from a mother to kind of want to take away a child's pain and difficulties. And then my kind of the pressure that puts on me to kind of be like, oh, I don't want her to see how much I struggle and how much pain I'm in. So it's about that, but it's also about a lot of ill people and chronically ill people don't know whether they'll be able to be parents and things like that. So that's another song that is about it's kind of a sad song, but it's also about the kind of cyclical nature of life, that we're all born on a string and nobody gets out alive. So yeah, it's about sort of motherhood and potential motherhood, and the things that we pass on in our genes, and the pressures of life, and how that affects our familial relationships. So that's another one that it's not that obvious, but it's really obvious to me, and it's a very, very emotional song for me when I play it live, and I absolutely love playing it live. But a lot of people come to me and say, oh, it makes me think, if somebody's like a new mother, they'll come and say, oh, it makes me think about this, or it makes me think about a bereavement. A lot of people think it's about a bereavement. It's actually not, but it's nice that people have that connection. It's like, oh, it made me think about this person that was special to me that I lost, and the kind of like the bonds that kind of those bonds that last through death. But yeah, so yeah, I have written a lot about different parts of illness, because illness affects every part of my life and my relationships, my personality, who I am, what I do. So I do write a lot about how disability affects me, but that's the first time that I've written about ableism, I think. And it wasn't like any big thing that prompted me to write about it. I think it was just that I must have just had a few experiences back to back in a short space of time. And I was like, I need to write about this. I need to write about these strange people that just think it's okay to come and ask me, hey, what's wrong with you? And it's like, who does that? What stranger goes up to somebody else and just starts asking personal things about them? But suddenly when you're disabled and visibly disabled, people just think it's all right to just come and ask you loads of personal questions. And I just thought somebody needs to hear about this.
With this one, and with the one song about your mother, sounds really complicated, interesting as well, and like complex in theme, which is one of my favorite. I love songs that deal with lots of with complex issues and things like that. Were you with both these, and I guess in your songwriting in general, how much do you know about what you're going to say in the song when you start writing it, and how much of it reveals as you write? So that one about all the issues around it, around parenthood and stuff. Did you, before you started writing it, be like, this is I've thought about all these things, I'm going to put these in a song?
I never really write a song and it turns out how I envisaged it. And I try not to have a clear idea about what I want to do. I don't think I've ever written a song and it's kind of happened like that. It always just kind of evolves. And I think that's where I feel most happy, just starting to write, coming up with a tune or coming up with an idea. Like the song Wool, I just had this idea about life being a ball of string and kind of unraveling as it goes. And I just had this image, and I did some painting, and that's kind of where that kind of came from. And then I was kind of thinking about, well, where do we come from? And we're all born on a string. And then I started kind of riffing with that idea. And then I started thinking about, these relationships and grandma, mother, daughter, and how we all kind of connect and what we've passed to each other. Some of it's bad, some of it's amazing, and it's kind of like how do we exist through these difficult times and these difficult situations. So that kind of just evolved just from an image and just doing some drawing, and I was really obsessed with the color red at that time, and just started sort of painting lots of red and then started just thinking about string and the cyclical nature of life. And so that just kind of evolved really. And over a period of time, I just had like little notes around the house where I just kind of go, oh, that's an interesting idea. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So I just kind of put it down. And then I just started playing the piano in clusters. So some of the chords, I don't really know what the chords are, but I was kind of making clusters. So I wasn't trying to do like a triad. I was just trying to do like, oh, those two notes sound interesting together. What other notes could I add? And it kind of started off like really small and then kind of built out from there. And then I could hear different arrangements in my head. And then I kind of came up with this beat that went with it. And then, it just kind of evolved from there. And I often have an idea about a beat in my head that I want it to sound like. So I'll often kind of, it's probably really annoying for my drummer, but I'm often like, I want it to be like, right, this, and just start tapping. And they're like, right, okay. But sometimes I also do a demo where I'll kind of just make a beat out of tapping things, of where I want the emphasis to go and how I think that the beat could evolve or change or develop or stop, because I really like clear stops in songs. I often do that, like leave holes. And I think that's quite important because when I used to write music, I used to try and fill in every single little bit of the song with noise, whether it was like oohs or a beat going through. And I started to think like, I'm actually singing about some real heavy stuff. And even if the song isn't heavy and minor and doom and gloom, the content of what I'm saying, I really believe in my words. And I really just want to give them some breath, some breathing space. So often now I'll try and leave a gap and just go down to the bass or just go down to the drums and just have like just a couple of seconds to kind of be like, oh, I'll just have a pause and then the next bit. And for me, I really like that. And when I'm performing live, I really like to do that as well. As it just gives me a bit of a breath as well, especially when I'm singing about stuff that's really personal. I think it's really good to just kind of in between songs, but also within the songs, just to have that little pause and that breath to just kind of be centered with what you're singing about and the content. And did that answer that question? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. No, really good answer. It made me think when you were talking about the writing the song and how it kind of unfolds, and these kind of like sounded like you kind of get like images or like, and this popped into my head when I was thinking of this. It reminds me of I'm a massive Springsteen fan, when he did the VH1 Storytellers thing. He did The Rising on it, which is one of my favorite songs of his. And he went through the first verse and he'd sing the line and he'd tell you about what it means, sing the next line, tell you what it means. And he got to like the chorus and he said, so all that, he said, how much of it was I thinking when I wrote the song? None of it. But how much of it was I feeling? All of it.
Yes.
And I thought that's such a good way of summarizing that. You're not consciously thinking, this is what I'm trying to say, but the feeling's there and it comes out in the creativity.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I think actually the minute that you start thinking and you start trying to be clever and be like, oh, this image would be cool with this image and that would be real clever, you've lost it. And then the song just has no feeling anymore. So I think it's all about sort of going, that's weird, but I've felt it and I've thought it, so I'll just kind of leave it there for a sec and see if it fits. And often these things kind of, there's that a eureka moment when you're like, oh, that's how it all fits together. But you kind of need the song to tell you what it wants to be, and you kind of need to leave it some space to be able to show you what it is. It is like a birth, it is like a child. It's like watching something develop, but it's you doing it, but you're kind of like not in charge of it. It kind of does it on its own. It's a funny thing, it really is. But I think you're right. If you think about it too much and you decide what a song's about, I just don't think it's going to be a good song.
Yeah, it's so such a strange thing, isn't it? Fascinating. I want to move on to section 2 soon, but I wanted to just ask you something before we move on to that. So you were obviously a member of Holy Moly and the Crackers, that were, you know, very successful band, and then that stopped now, and now you're doing solo stuff. I'm always interested in what that's like as a writer. So with the band, were you still doing most of the writing? Did you co-write? And then what's that shift been like from writing with the band to like kind of, it's almost launching a new career, really, isn't it? Of like, obviously, you know, people will follow you from both, but it's and a different style of music. So I guess what's that transition been like for you in terms of your writing and I guess your musical identity and what's that?
Yeah, it's been really good to have both projects because they are so different, and especially the live performances are so different, and the energy is completely different. So I did do a lot of writing for Holy Moly. I'd say me and Conrad and the other singer, we did most of the writing. But there's been songs that have come from all members of the band. So you know, we'd never say no, you can't have a song on this album, you know. But it's just that the rest of the band kind of write a lot less than me and Con, because we write together all the time. So yeah, it was mainly me and Conrad, and then Rosie wrote a few of the songs as well. And we'd often write those together, which was really good. I've always really enjoyed that. But I guess writing for Holy Moly, there was always a set of parameters, because you've got an accordion to fit in there, you've got brass to fit in there, you've got a full band. It's got to be a certain sort of energy, I guess, because our live shows are very highly energetic. It's about like positivity, you know, raising your fist in the air, and we get a lot of people dancing and crowd surfing and leaping around. And what I love about Holy Moly is the way that the thing that I'm most proud of for that project is that it seemed as though we got people to lose their inhibitions and make friends and just be whoever they wanted to be in that space. And when I'd look out across the crowd and see how many people were just being so kind to each other and meeting up and sharing their stories, and the amount of people that told us afterwards that, oh, we met at one of your gigs and now we're married, or we met at one of your gigs and we've made this friendship group on Facebook and we meet up every couple of months. And that's the thing that we're most proud of, that we kind of got that across, because we do love each other. We really are a family, and a lot of bands say that, and I don't believe them, but we really, really are. Like, even now, you know, we're all gutted that the band's ended, but we all just have different projects. And so like quite a lot of people will be like, what's really going on? Why have you really split up? And it genuinely is because I'm busy with my solo project, and other people have got different projects. Like Rosie's gone to grow flax, so she's starting an eco project with fashion called Straw into Gold, and she's doing phenomenally. So yeah, we did write together a lot, and that writing process did involve some parameters, which I loved, but I also kind of wanted to break free from. I didn't always want to write for fiddle or accordion or brass or in the structures of a 6-piece band. I wanted to break free from that a little bit and be able to write about things that I felt were important to me to get out. And that's why this project, the Ruth Lyon project, is so freeing for me, and it's enabled me to write about things that are personal, because I don't think it would be the right project if I was writing, say, Flood, and then put it to Holy Moly, the guys would have absolutely gone for it 100%. They say, you know, we all support each other, but it would have felt like, I'm not sure this is the right project for this. I think I need a solo project to be able to really speak about things that are so personal to me. And I do have a band that I have, that's all some of my best friends, which is brilliant. And we kind of play together live, and we record together. But yeah, it is different, and it's a little bit more lonely actually. Doing my solo project, it is more lonely because it's a lot more time by myself, writing all the parts, thinking about things in my own head, because I don't tend to write with other people. But with that, I actually really like it as well, because it's so authentically me, and I can really sit with my words and edit things slowly, which I've actually really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed the process of being in my own head and trusting myself as well, because it was a bit daunting to begin with, writing on my own, because I'm thinking there's nobody else in the room to tell me, nah, that's not good, or that's great, like you should go with that. And so I had to start self-editing, which I'd never really done before, because I'd always had like Conrad or Rosie in the room to go, what about this, what about that? And so I had to come up with all these ideas myself and be critical on myself, but not too critical, if you know what I mean, like that kind of balance of like, well, let's not throw everything out the window, but I do also, I need to be critical and be like, I'm not sure that's great, I could do better, you know. But no, it's been a really great experience, and I'm sure Holy Moly will come back at some point, because we can't stay away forever, it's too fun. But it is nice to be able to focus on one thing for a while.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Yeah, I liked what you said about lots of bands say that they're a family, and you don't believe them. And it made me think. Again, I'm going to fit in a Springsteen quote here, but the thing and so I've seen you perform with Hold On the Crackers before, and what I remember Springsteen saying about the E Street Band, where he said he wanted the band to like reflect friendship to the crowd. And I think that was similar to what I remember from seeing you guys play, is that like it looked like you were all having a really good time, which I think sometimes some bands it doesn't always look like that. And then it's like, but when you see, it's like you can see that genuine friendship and connection when the band's doing that. And then I think it does help create that in the audience, because it just kind of, it creates that feel in the room, doesn't it, of people who are very close having a good time together, and it invites everyone to kind of get that spirit in a way, I think.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly what we want, you know, and we are all having a good time. And even if like we'd fallen out, or someone had got a bit tired or whatever, or, you know, on a long tour, these things happen, you know, somebody's just hangry even. But like before the shows, we'd always like get together and kind of look at each other and just like do a silly dance, like shake it off, like whatever anybody was feeling, whether we were nervous or tired or whatever. Or the sound check was bad, or you know, anything that had happened, and then we'd kind of just like twirl around, or like all put our hands in and do that kind of thing of like, woo, you know, like, just something silly that gets you out of your own head, and you're just like, oh, life is life, let's go and do this. And I think that kind of connection is really good, because you see some bands and they've all got like separate dressing rooms, and you're like, oh, these guys really don't like each other.
Yeah, definitely. And certain music, just like, you know, like even if you're not feeling it at the start, once the music kicks in, certain music just has that ability to bring that out of you, doesn't it? Yeah, brilliant. Let's move to section 2, shall we? This is where I ask my guests for a songwriting tip. So what would your tip be for us today, Ruth?
It's kind of touching on what I was saying earlier about when I was writing Flood, but I think I think the best music, the most real music, the music that I connect with, like my favorite artists are Aldous Harding, Regina Spektor, Big Thief, and these artists that really, I don't necessarily know if they're singing about themselves, but the way that they talk is so unique to them, that I find that really inspiring. And so I think that the most real music comes from real life, or capturing real life in some way. And so I think my tip is to always document anything that's unusual, interesting, anything that piques your interest, and it could be a noise, it could be a bird that you hadn't heard before, and you could be like, oh, that's an interesting sound, I wonder what that bird is, or a flower, or it could something in nature, or it could be a train rhythm. And I'm trying to kind of always be aware of sound and experience and document it in some way. And everyone, I feel like on New Year's Day, everyone's like, I'm going to journal. I'm going to do my journaling this year. This is the year I'm going to do a journal. And I do the same thing, but it doesn't need to be a pretty journal with, photos, and it doesn't have to be anything special. It could just be your phone, often talking to my notes, or just write things down in my notes of that you sat on a bus and somebody says something weird and you're like, oh, that's interesting, like a turn of phrase, or a conversation, or somebody, like an interaction with somebody, and it could be an animal or a person or a tree or whatever. And I always try and document everything, even if it seems bizarre or it doesn't relate to anything. Often these things, if I'm thinking, oh, I really need to write something, or I want to write something, but I'm not feeling very inspired, I'll go back into my notes or my voice notes, or go back to my diary and kind of just pick out something, and then it's a starting point. So I just think, be open to life and recording life in some way, drawing it, putting it in your phone, writing things down. And I think the other thing is just not to get bogged down in rhythm and rhyme, because things don't need to rhyme, first of all, but also half rhymes I find a lot more pleasing on the ear. I think perfect rhymes aren't everything they're cracked up to be. Sometimes it's nice, but the half rhyme is something that I find really, really I find it really satisfying. And there's nothing wrong with just getting a thesaurus out and go, I want a word that kind of sounds like this sound, and just going through a thesaurus or the dictionary and just finding a word like, oh, how can I cram this word in? That's interesting. I don't think there's any real, it doesn't have to be something that you've thought of yourself. You could just, be referencing somebody else, or So I think the main thing is, like, you don't need to sit down and want to write a song and then sit at a computer or sit at a keyboard or sit with your guitar. You can actually just start writing anywhere on the move, and recording life is part of the writing process. So we're always writing.
Yeah, that's really good. I think it sounds like it's training and trusting your awareness a bit. So, like, I was thinking when you were talking about writing the song about the motherhood relationships, and like that, just when certain things just pop into your head, and then putting that, and you don't necessarily know what it is to begin with. That's, I guess, whether that's a songwriter or any creative person's skill, is learning to trust that your instincts of awareness. So whether if you hear something or notice something, there might be a reason why you've noticed that, and it might not seem like anything at the time, but the sound of that train was strange today, and then you might try it down the next time, and might be like, oh, that connects to this other thing. So it's, I guess, does that kind of fit with what you were saying? That
totally.
It's not necessarily always knowing exactly what direction you're going in, but learning to listen to your awareness and capture.
Exactly. It's like about having like a bank of ideas. You just bank in thoughts, you bank in feelings. It's not necessarily a journal or a diary entry. It's just sort of, it could just be 3 words and those 3 words, the way that it came out of somebody's mouth when you were waiting for a train. It's like, that was a weird way of saying that. That's cool. Yeah. I'll write that down. It's just stuff like that. And then you bank in all these things, and then you kind of got a reservoir of ideas and feelings and thoughts and strange occurrences that have only happened to you, because there's no one else that experiences life like you. So if you're constantly just banking those ideas and banking those thoughts, and first of all, it's fun because you sometimes just go back through like, oh, I remember that day, that was a weird bird, whatever it is that experience, it's nice to kind of document it. But then you've got a bank, so then when you want to write and you feel like I want to write a song, you've got lots of starting points and things to kind of refer back to.
Maureen went peacefully, and she went in my arms. I could speak to her, but it wasn't enough. there were still things I wanted to say to her. But the end product, even now I can't believe it. I think it's wonderful, and it encapsulates everything of what I wanted it to do. And if I'm feeling down, I can play that, and hopefully it'll lift me up. And if I'm feeling high, let's think about the good times.
If you would like to help more people like John write songs in memory of loved ones, please donate to the Swan Song Project today. Let's move to section 3 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests for a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. So which song have you chosen for us for this section, Ruth?
I have chosen a song called Paper Aeroplane.
A hurricane is howling, but I feel safe inside. A storm is breaking, but I got a place to hide. Back when I was young, I made my own fun. Castles made of cardboard, traveled to the moon for lunch. I have no place I would rather be. I've opened my eyes to what this place must mean to me. I won't let go for anyone, 'cause I have no place I would rather be. No matter what my mood is, I've always got a place to go. Oh, in my imagination, I found out what I used to know. Oh, no more need to run. I'm making my own fun. Ride my paper airplane higher than the summer sun. I would rather be. I've opened my eyes to what this place must mean to me. And I won't let go for anyone, 'cause I have no place I would rather be. Oh, when did I stop myself believing? I need to remember how to be. Oh, when did I stop myself from dreaming? I need to remember how to see. I would rather be. I've opened my eyes to what this place must mean to me. And I won't let go for anyone, 'cause I have no place I would rather be. I have no place I would rather be.
Okay, brilliant. That was Paper Airplane. What can you tell us about writing that one, Ruth? And why you chose it for this section?
I wrote this song when my great aunt was dying, and then I played it at her funeral. I didn't play it live, I couldn't, I was too sad, but it was played at her funeral. And it was a difficult time because old people die, and that's part of life, and that's a really normal part of life. But my great aunt was like a parent to me when I was younger. So she lived with my parents. Both my parents were quite ill when I was born. So my great aunt sort of really helped bring me up, and a lot of my most vivid memories of being a small child was of my great aunt. And so I had this incredibly close bond with her. And so it felt really, really unfair when she got sick and became terminally ill and then died, because it felt like she was my mum and dad's age rather than the generation above. She's my granny's sister, so she it made sense that she was dying, but to me it just felt so unfair because it was like a parent dying. And so I wanted to write a song that wasn't too sad, because I think she would have felt really uncomfortable about me being sad, and she would have gone, "Oh, don't make a fuss," you know, that kind of generation where they're quite like that, don't make a fuss out of anything. But I wanted to write a song about how I felt about her and how and the feelings that she evoked in me of being. I just remember feeling very safe when I was a kid, and feeling she was a very loving, nurturing person. And so I wanted to write this song about her, and there was loads of special things about her, that she's the only other musician in the family, so she taught me how to play the piano, and some of my earliest memories are sitting on her knee and like her teaching me what the notes were, and she got me through all my music exams, and she accompanied me in a lot of my music exams, so she was allowed to come in with me, which felt amazing because she was accompanying me on the piano and I was playing the violin. And so we had this just really intense bond that no one else in the family really had, and I wanted to try and capture that about her, encouraging me to always be imaginative and creative and musical. And I think she's also responsible for me sort of like documenting my feelings and this kind of way of expressing myself, of documenting things and spending time thinking and being peaceful and quiet and kind of contemplative and grateful for things, and always seeing like a really positive spin on things. So yeah, it's a really, really special song for me. I don't perform it live very often because I don't know. I find it difficult to perform it live sometimes if I'm not in the right headspace. But it's a song that I am really happy that I wrote. It was quite difficult to write at the time, but I'm really happy that I wrote it. And it was really nice to be able to have it played at her funeral and have something that personal, because a lot of people choose music, but a lot of people don't have a song that's like actually written for them and about them at their funeral. So that felt really good. I mean, she'd probably just actually have hated that because she'd have found it like way too much fuss and like, oh no, you didn't need to do that. But yeah, bereavement is a funny thing, and it was only when I started talking to my friends about it, because I'd taken time off and it hit me really hard. Even though I knew she was going to die, it hit me really, really, really hard when she actually did die. And I'd say to some of my friends, they'd go, "Oh, where have you been? Like, what have you been doing? You said you had some family stuff going on," and say, "Oh, my great aunt died," and it was sort of like, I don't even know the name of my great aunt. It's like it's not a relationship in most people's lives that makes sense for why somebody would be so upset. But when I started talking about her, it was actually really nice when she died that I talked to a lot of my friends about, and they were like, "Oh, she sounds amazing," and she's responsible for a lot of the stuff that I've done in my life, actually, because I didn't study music, I studied fashion design. And she was a fantastic seamstress, and she taught me how to sew, and she taught me how to make my own clothes, and And she taught me that, you know, to be really confident in that as well. So on non-uniform day, when everyone else is like got the like latest designer or like latest like trainers or whatever, I'd be there in a skirt that I'd made out of old 1950s tea towels. she was always there cheering me on, going, just wear it, come on, we made it together. You know, and you know, I probably did look quite odd compared to the other kids, but I really liked that, you know, having somebody that was supportive of my creativity and what I wanted to do, and never made me feel weird, which is really nice. So yeah, that's what this song's about. And it does kind of sound a little bit ethereal with the layers of the vocals and the harmonies, and I like to think that it's kind of dreamscapey. Yeah, so it's a really important song for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And yeah, sounds like a wonderful person, and such a great part of your life. Yeah, the thing about people's expectations of what a relationship should be is really interesting. If like I've had that before, where some, you know, a certain person dies and people are like, oh, people kind of assume it's like either your immediate family, or, and I mean, there's that like age thing, isn't it? People, when somebody older dies, people think it's not going to hit you in the same way. And yeah, like you say, if it's a great aunt, most people like have a I don't know, an assumption of how close that relationship would be. Whereas, yeah, as you say, it's everyone's relationships are so different, aren't they? And like, just to you, that might be worse than somebody losing their partner or their, you know, parent or something like that. It's all, the title isn't as important as the relationship, is it? And there's something else. Yeah, it always makes me think of celebrities as well. You know, like when a celebrity does, particularly like, you know, for us probably musicians, for me definitely musicians, like when Leonard Cohen died, that really hit me because it was someone who I felt, and Matt Lanigan was another one. You know, Matt Lanigan, he's a big hero of mine. When he died, that really hit me. And yeah, well, I'd met him briefly after a show. I didn't know him,
Yeah.
but you know, it's like you feel like you know someone, and through you're connected to them through their art in some way.
Yeah, it's all about the context of the relationship and how you feel about somebody. And I think that we do have this thing that we're not allowed to grieve about certain people, or like there's a certain like time limit on grief. So, especially when somebody's old, it's like, oh, come on, they were old. Like, and it's like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
You know, you've lost somebody, and you've lost somebody that was massively, massively influential and important in your life. And yeah, in a way, it was a blessing when she died, because she was suffering for a long time, and you know, she really, really, really needed an end to it, and I know she wanted to die as well. So it was a blessing, but it's about, it brings up all the memories, and it's just a shame because that person's not around anymore. And you want to show them things, you know, especially the music and the creative stuff that I do. You know, there's no one else in the family really that I can show things to. I know they're proud of us, but it's not like they get it. It's not like they've been part of it and kind of responsible for it. So yeah, it is that relationship and the context of a relationship that's the only thing that matters. It's not about the age. It's not about anything other than that. It's it's about the relationship, and it could be a friend. It doesn't have to be a relative. Like, you can grieve for anybody, and like you say, even people that don't, you know, like when the Queen died, there's people crying everywhere, and she was old. I don't think any of those people knew her personally, but it touches people, and you know, it's life, isn't it? When we have to just be aware of how we feel and express ourselves in whatever way we need to.
Yeah, definitely. What's the significance of the paper airplane, if you mind me asking?
I think it's just it's harking back to that thing of being a kid and being excited about really the imagination of mundane objects, like a cardboard box is often way more exciting and exhilarating than the plastic toy that's inside. And that imagination of turning a piece of paper into an aeroplane, I always used to find fascinating. Origami, I used to just be, wow, how did you make that frog? You're a magician, you know? And I kind of, I think as we get older we lose that. And my auntie was always really big into that, about imagination. You don't need the TV on. Like, we didn't have a TV when I was a kid, and we didn't want the TV, and we didn't want to be sort of doing anything other than just being with each other and making things out of nothing, like climbing trees and having paper airplane contests and cardboard boxes and paper mache. Like, you know, when you used to get the balloon and do the paper mache and then make like a face mask, or you could like make like hot air balloons. So I'd do lots of them, and then like, have a little thing at the bottom, just like, you know, crafts. And it just felt like the best thing ever. You spent a whole Sunday just making this thing out of just random trash. And then it was just like, I just remember being a kid and just thinking that I was a genius because I'd created this whole world and this object, and it had such significance. And whenever I'd do some craft at school for my auntie, you know, she'd be so excited and like keep it forever. And so when she died, and we were cleaning out her flat, there was just so much stuff that I'd sent her. She just never ever got rid of it. And she'd always put the age on, like Ruthie, she called me Ruthie, aged 5, and it's just some terrible little drawing or some bits of cardboard that I've glued together, and she's kept it. And I just thought that was so beautiful to see that. And so I guess the paper airplane kind of references that. It's a metaphor for all of those things that she'd kept all of her life. And I just find that magical, like that somebody can get so excited and be so touched by this kid making them something that's terrible. But the fact that it just meant so much to her, and that something so small and insignificant, she had such a lot of power for her. And so that's what the paper airplane's about.
That's beautiful, Ruth. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that brought back a lot of memories. My grandma used to collect cardboard boxes for us as well, and I've got these like fond memories of me and like about 5 or 6 other kids that lived near her house. My grandma used to, you know, invite everybody in, and we just had like a pile of cardboard boxes in the kitchen, but it was just the best. We'd come, she's like, "I've got your new box." Oh yes, oh yeah, you make some kind of fort out of it or something like that. And it's such a great kind of example, isn't it, of like, you know, you don't have to spend a load of money on buying fancy stuff for kids, and it's like part of it's just that having that enthusiasm, that encouragement for them to enjoy that. And like you say, like these, so yeah, when you're talking about it, bring back lots of really happy memories of playing with cardboard boxes when I was a kid.
Yeah, and I think it's about the spirit of the person that's playing with you when you're a kid. You know, I think life just gets really busy, doesn't it? So a lot of people kind of just go, oh, just get the iPad out or just stick the TV on. And I understand that because our lives are busy and people are struggling for energy. But I think kids, well, I certainly, all my memories are from someone having the patience and the time to actually engage with me and encourage my creativity and not kind of shut it down by just putting a screen in front of us. And that's something that I really admire about my aunt. Like, she was just so patient. Like, she would never ever get annoyed with me being like, you know, I was quite a hyperactive, needy kid. Like, I always wanted to be doing something, like playing a new instrument or learning a new thing, or I did karate and ballet, and I was always like hyperactive and running around. I was always like hugging on her arm, like, we're gonna go for a walk, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. She's always so patient, and I think that time that I spent with her is just, it really informed who I am actually, and just gave me the space and the confidence to be who I wanted to be. And that's, yeah. And so the cardboard boxes, I just have so many great memories of, or like pillow forts, you know, getting all the cushions off the couch and making a fort and just like diving into it with my little brother, you know, stuff like that. You don't need any money to be able to do that. It's just, you have to have somebody that wants to spend time with you. And that's what she meant to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Ruth. Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing. And yeah, it's a beautiful song. Yeah, brilliant. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, Ruth. That's been a really fun and really interesting episode. Really enjoyed it. And you've got a few tour dates coming up. Let's see.
Yes, I am playing on Friday at Gosport Civic Centre in Newcastle with Lady Nade and Martha Hill. And then I've got some festivals coming up. I'm going to be doing Greenbelt, I'm doing Novum Festival, and a few others around and about. And I've just recorded my first album.
Oh, brilliant.
And so that's going to be coming out late this year or early beginning of next year. So yeah, I'll be doing a tour around that album release, and yeah, so keep on the lookout for that. So I really like the album. It's taken a long time to record it, but I'm really happy with it.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, look forward to hearing that. And yeah, I'll put all your social media pages and website and stuff in the description of the episodes. People can follow you there and keep up to date with it all. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time, Ruth. No, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.